Did you know that Africa lost over $70 million in 2024 alone due to rejected visa applications to Europe and the UK? That's right. These were non-refundable fees paid for visa applications that were ultimately denied. Just from Europe and the UK alone, this is how much Africa is bleeding financially through the visa application process. Across Africa, leaders are standing up alongside Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, pushing back hard against a system that's treated the continent unfairly for too long. This wave of change is driven by a clear demand: justice, pride, and the ability to stand on our own feet. From the streets of Ouagadougou to the busy roads of Lusaka, something big is shifting. African nations are tired of being used and overlooked by a global order that only takes from them. One of the loudest voices in this new era is Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema. He recently made headlines by calling out the European Union and the United Kingdom, demanding that they return money paid by Africans for visa applications that get rejected. For many, it was more than just a political statement. It was a bold challenge to the unfair systems that quietly drain the continent. In just 2024 alone, African citizens lost around $67.5 million, or about 60 million euros, to unpaid Schengen visa fees. Add another £59 million taken by the UK's visa system, and it becomes clear this isn't small change. These aren't just numbers. Each figure represents someone who hoped for a better future, spent their savings, and got nothing back. In some countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal, up to half of all applications are rejected. It's unacceptable that our people are losing so much money this way, Hichilema said, and his words echoed across the continent. What he's demanding isn't charity, it's fairness. If your application is denied, you deserve your money back. But deeper than that, this is a challenge to a system that keeps Africa at the bottom. What could Africa do with an extra $70 million? Build roads, open hospitals, improve schools, and grow businesses led by local talent. That's the vision. An Africa that invests in its people instead of begging for help. President Hichilema's message is clear. Africa needs to stop being taken advantage of. Instead, it's time to tap into its own strength, its people, its resources, and its creativity to build a better future. And leading this charge is Ibrahim Traoré, a 37-year-old leader whose bold ideas are inspiring both his country and the wider continent. He's not picking sides between East and West. He's creating a new path focused on independence. Traoré isn't just talking, he's taking action. He's tired of seeing Africa's brightest minds leave for places like Germany, Israel, or Saudi Arabia, only to be mistreated or never return. In one of his speeches, he pointed out how foreign scholarships often lure talented young Africans away, and they rarely come back. "I don't want our brains serving other countries," he said firmly. His words hit hard because they reflect a truth African leaders have often ignored. Too many young people are risking their lives to leave, chasing promises that rarely deliver. But Traoré is changing that. He's building a system that gives young people real opportunities at home, creating jobs, growing industries, and improving life across the board. In Burkina Faso, local textile factories are thriving, producing goods that meet international standards and reducing the need for imports. Farmers are feeding the country and exporting their extra harvests. Roads, schools, and government buildings are being built by local workers and engineers, not foreign companies. And through serious investment in training and better wages, his government is giving top talent a reason to stay. This leader understands a simple truth. Africa's strength lies in its people, not in handouts from abroad. Workers, thinkers, creators, and dreamers are the real foundation of the continent's future. Without holding back, Ibrahim Traoré boldly called out other African leaders, criticizing their dependence on foreign powers. His message was loud and clear. Stop acting like puppets for outsiders. He challenged the outdated mindset that Africans can't match or surpass the West. For too long, governments have handed out huge contracts to foreign companies, especially from China, to build their roads, bridges, and cities, while ignoring what their own citizens can do. But Traoré is proving a new way is possible. In Burkina Faso, local companies are now leading major projects and doing it better and cheaper. Take, for example, the highway built by Burkinabe engineers between Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso. Local workers finished it for half the price that foreign firms had offered. That road isn't just pavement, it's a symbol of what Africa can achieve when it believes in itself. It's not only about saving money, it's about pride, self-reliance, and rejecting the idea that Africa needs others to succeed. Traoré isn't blind to how Africans are treated abroad. From racism in Europe to abuse and mistreatment in the Gulf, the stories are sadly too common. Highly skilled African professionals, teachers, nurses, engineers often end up doing low-paying jobs, far below their qualifications. Others risk everything, crossing dangerous seas in small boats, chasing the hope of a better life. Too many never make it. Traoré spoke with sorrow and anger as he recalled how some young Africans drowned in the Mediterranean, their dreams washing up lifeless on foreign shores. He also pointed out how those who do make it often face discrimination, their talent ignored, their dignity stripped away. This wouldn't happen if our leaders had the courage to invest in our own people, he said, placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of those in power who have failed to act. It's no surprise that Traoré is gaining support across Africa, especially among the youth. Young people from Nigeria to Kenya are sharing posts, videos, and stories about the changes happening in Burkina Faso. From new farms to growing businesses, they see proof that progress doesn't have to come from the West or the East, it can come from within. A Zambian youth put it best. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is showing us what real leadership looks like. Another person from Ghana wrote, "He's building a country where young people have work, confidence, and something to believe in. That's the Africa we want." This new generation is starting to demand more from their leaders and from themselves. They're tired of empty promises. They're tired of leaders flying to foreign countries, attending summit after summit, and coming back with nothing but staged photos and vague promises. Those trips, often paid for with public funds, have become a symbol of weakness, a belief that Africa needs saving from outside. But Traoré is flipping that script. In a speech that moved many, he declared, "We don't need to beg. Africa already has the people, the ideas, and the natural wealth it needs to thrive. What it needs now," he said, "are leaders brave enough to make bold decisions and act." Traoré's words hit hard as he called out leaders who spend more time flying to international meetings than fixing problems at home. He criticized those who chase praise from foreign powers while their own people struggle in poverty. He believes that if African leaders put the same energy into building up their countries as they do attending summits, Africa could create millions of jobs, use its resources wisely, and compete with any country in the world. The issue of visa fees is just one symptom of a much bigger problem, a global system that continues to benefit from Africa's weakness. A UK-based research group, the Largo Collective, exposed how unfair the visa process really is. Their findings showed that African applicants are rejected for Schengen visas far more often than people from other parts of the world. What's worse, people lose money when their applications are denied, with no refunds offered. This isn't just about the cash, it's about dignity. It shows how African hopes and dreams are often treated as if they don't matter. While Zambia's President Hichilema has boldly demanded that visa fees be returned, Ibrahim Traoré is taking things a step further by building a country where people don't need foreign visas or outside approval. Burkina Faso, under his leadership, is showing what's possible when local skills are given the chance to lead. Unlike other governments still signing overpriced deals with foreign companies, Traoré is relying on homegrown talent. His administration is creating real jobs, from engineers designing smart irrigation systems to workers producing traditional Faso Danfani fabrics. These projects are bringing in thousands of young people who are now shaping the future of Burkina Faso with their energy and ideas. In farming, the government is helping young farmers by giving them better tools, training, and market access. This has boosted local food production and allowed the country to export crops like cotton, millet, and sorghum to neighboring countries, cutting back on the need for imports. In the industrial sector, Traoré is also making big changes. New factories are being built to process local resources such as shea butter and gold. Instead of exporting raw materials for others to profit from, Burkina Faso is now adding value and creating jobs. These factories are run by local workers, many of whom receive training through government-supported programs. The same is happening in construction. Local companies are now building roads, schools, and hospitals projects, once dominated by foreign contractors. Their work is not only effective, but filled with pride and purpose. In a recent speech, Traoré stated clearly, "We don't need the Chinese or the West to build our country. We have the talent here: architects, engineers, builders. All we need is to believe in ourselves." This belief in African potential is the core of his mission. Unlike others who think their people aren't ready to compete globally, Traoré sees something different. Brightest minds are just as capable as anyone else, and he's putting education at the center of his vision. Across Burkina Faso, new technical schools and universities are offering programs in engineering, tech, and business. Instead of sending scholarships abroad, the government is now funding local education to keep top talent at home. As Traoré put it, "We have scientists who can invent, doctors who can heal, and entrepreneurs who can create wealth. Everything we need is already here, so why are we still looking to the West?" This message is striking a deep chord, especially with young Africans. To many, Traoré isn't just a leader, he's someone who reflects their values, their dreams, and their hunger for change. Across Africa, young people are using social media and local gatherings to talk about the progress happening in Burkina Faso. Inspired by what's going on under Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, students in Nigeria have launched Traoré Talks open forums where they discuss his ideas and explore how their own leaders might adopt similar approaches. In Kenya, a group of young business owners started a movement called Stay Home, Build Africa, inspired by Traoré's call to keep Africa's talent on the continent. In Zambia, where President Hichilema's push to reclaim visa fees has sparked national debate, young citizens point to Traoré as living proof that Africa doesn't need to rely on outsiders to thrive. One person summed it up in a viral post: "He's not just a president, he's a whole movement." For many, the daily mistreatment of Africans abroad only makes the need for this shift more urgent. In Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, African workers often face long hours, poor pay, and harsh treatment. In Europe, even highly skilled African professionals are met with racism, bias, and unfair hiring practices. One Nigerian nurse in the UK recently shared how, despite her degrees, she was forced to work as a cleaner because her qualifications weren't recognized. Many Africans have been detained or deported from places like Israel, despite the value they bring to those economies. Sadly, these stories are not rare. They represent the painful reality faced by many Africans who leave home hoping for better, only to find closed doors and broken promises. This is exactly what Traoré wants to change by building a system that keeps Africa's best and brightest at home, building up their own communities. Both Traoré and Hichilema are part of a growing movement. Though their methods differ, they share a common vision: an Africa that stands on its own feet, refuses to be used, and no longer accepts the status quo. Africa is not poor because it lacks resources. In fact, it's one of the richest continents in minerals like gold, uranium, and rare earth metals. But because of poor leadership and foreign exploitation, much of that wealth benefits others. Traoré is changing that by putting local workers first and taking back control of key industries so that profits stay within the country. The time for begging is over. African leaders must stop flying to endless summits and start focusing on real progress at home. Traoré has shown what's possible. Africa has the brains, the natural wealth, and the determination to succeed on its own terms. What's needed now is the political will to act. His message, along with Hichilema's bold stance, sends a clear signal. Africa will no longer be exploited. The people are awake, and they are demanding change. The rest of the world needs to pay attention, because this is a new Africa confident, capable, and ready to take charge of its own destiny. Brothers and sisters, let's be clear. The bold steps taken by leaders like Ibrahim Traoré and Hakainde Hichilema are the start of a new chapter. One where Africa finally breaks free from the chains of exploitation and steps fully into its power. If more leaders join this vision, the impact could be nothing short of revolutionary. Africa has long been seen as a continent in need, but that image is changing. A united Africa, built on self-reliance and mutual support, has the power to transform itself into a hub of creativity, skills, and opportunity. Picture an Africa where inventors from South Africa work with engineers in Mali or Senegal, where borders connect rather than divide, and where bright minds from Burkina Faso travel to Kenya or Tanzania to share ideas and solve problems. This kind of unity and movement between African countries could unlock massive opportunities. Imagine doctors from South Africa improving healthcare in Mali, Burkinabe engineers building green infrastructure in Kenya, or Senegalese tech experts launching new startups in Tanzania. This level of collaboration could create millions of jobs by using Africa's own talent to drive progress. Instead of losing money to rejected visa applications like the $70 million wasted on Schengen fees or the £44 million on UK visas, African nations could invest that money in training centers, cross-border trade, tech hubs, and universities that nurture future leaders. This would keep knowledge and skills within the continent instead of exporting professionals to the West, where they're often underpaid, mistreated, or undervalued. Just think, Burkina Faso's growing textile industry could supply clothing to Nigeria. Kenya's farming technology could help feed people in Ghana. Morocco's renewable energy could power factories in Ethiopia. If African leaders show the same courage and vision as Traoré, this isn't just wishful thinking, it's within reach. This kind of unity would end the era of African leaders flying to foreign capitals, hoping for help. Instead, Africa would stand as an equal on the global stage, rich in gold, diamonds, cobalt, and most importantly, the creativity of 1.4 billion people. The unfair visa systems that President Hichilema spoke out against would be replaced with a new system of open movement within Africa itself, allowing Africans to thrive in their own region. The world would no longer see Africa as helpless. It would see Africa as a place full of inventors, builders, and problem solvers. Traoré has already shown what's possible when a leader trusts in his people. His policies have created thousands of jobs, empowered local talent, and proven that Africa doesn't need outsiders to succeed. Now imagine this same approach spreading across the entire continent, shared infrastructure, regional teamwork, and policies that work together. Young people would no longer need to risk their lives trying to reach Europe or face disrespect abroad. They would find opportunity and pride at home. A united Africa, where everyone from Cairo to Cape Town works toward the same goal, would shine as a symbol of hope. There's no time left for division. The moment to rise together is now. By following Traoré's bold leadership and embracing Hichilema's fight for justice, African leaders can build a future where the continent's wealth stays with its people, where its voice is respected, and where no one needs to beg for support. This is the Africa of tomorrow, strong, united, and proudly writing its own story. As Zambia shifts its stance, it joins a rising chorus across Africa that refuses to accept second-class treatment on the global stage. The message is loud and clear. The era of silent submission is over. Let us know in the comments, do you think this will spark real change? And what should African nations do next in response to these repeated diplomatic slights? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into global power shifts and Africa's rising voice.